Hey guys, Max Rich here, and today I want to talk to you about a concept called enclosure. And enclosure is a cool improvising technique. Jazz players use it, R&B players, blues players, a lot of different styles of music use the concept of enclosure. And it's a real simple concept, but it's a little difficult to implement immediately into your playing unless you kind of know what to look for. And basically what enclosure is where you have three notes and you play the two outside notes and then the inside note. And what that means is, let's say we were dealing with like just three simple notes. Let's say we were dealing with B, C, and D, right? So those three notes, B, C, and D. The two outside notes would be B and D because they are like physically on the outside of C, right? The B is the 7 of C, and D is the 2 of C. So if we're like in the key of C major and we're doing enclosure, a concept, like I said, that is used in a lot of styles of music, you would play one of the outside notes, maybe B, and then the D, the other outside note, and then resolve to the inside note. And that doesn't seem like very difficult and very hard, but it happens all the time in music. And so if you took that concept and you applied it throughout an entire scale, you could get something pretty interesting. And it's a nice way of playing through scales that take you out of just running up and down the scale. Like if you're playing pentatonic scales and you're just kind of going up and down them and fumbling around. Right? It's a good way to get out of that problem and into a more melodic way of playing. And it doesn't have to be two notes right next to each other. It could be in the context of a pentatonic scale, right? Let's say you take the first three notes, right? They're not like in a row, A, C, and D. C and D are technically next to each other, but A and C are a third apart. Nonetheless, you could play A, D, and then C, right? Or D, A, C. Now that's a much more melodic way of playing. If I went up my scale that way, you know, it's a way cooler way of than kind of going up the scale just manually, just like in sequential order, right? So if we took this to like a major scale, like a C major scale, if we go up to the 8th fret, right, and you go, play your C major scale, right, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10, 8, 10, 7, 8. That's your C major scale. Right? There's pretty much three notes on just about every string. So that means you can play those three notes as a form of enclosure. So this is what that would sound like. Now that's a way cooler way of ascending your C major scale than simply just running it, even if you're playing fast. Right? It's much more musical. And so if you start to incorporate this concept of enclosure where you're playing an outside note, the other outside note, and then the inside note into your playing and into your improvisations, you'll find that you end up playing a lot more musically all the time. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of show you 3 or 4 licks that exemplify this idea and how to use them over specific chords. But for now, begin by taking any scale, a scale that you're comfortable with, like I said, the pentatonic scale, and try thinking of them in terms of 3 notes, right? So once again, if I'm descending my pentatonic scale, right, I take the first 3, and then I play the outside notes, right? So the first note, and then the third note, and then the second note, right? And then I can begin the scale where I left off. So I take those 3 now, and then I go. So that becomes. Right? Right? You can use use this concept to create really, really cool melodic ideas in combination with various rhythms. So stick around because I'm going to show you some cool licks coming up. Okay, so this first lick is over an E7 sharp 9 chord. People call it the Hendrix chord, you can call it whatever you want. It is an E7 sharp 9, and it's basically 7, 6, 7, 8 on the 4 inside strings. Right, and you hear this chord all the time. Hendrix uses it, Stevie Ray Vaughan uses it, virtually everyone in the blues rock world uses this chord. And this is what the lick sounds like. Okay, cool. So right away, the first 3 figures that we have use enclosure. And we're starting on the E, but we're doing it with our pinky. And we're going... We're playing E, C sharp, and D, right? Because that outlines the E Mixolydian scale. And then we do the exact same thing on the D string, A, F sharp, G. Right? And so if you notice, like if we take these 3 notes, once again, E, D, C sharp, we're playing the outside one. So we're playing the highest note, then the lowest note, and then the middle note of those 3. And then we're just literally copying the exact same thing on the next string. And then we go back to the same thing we just did. Right? Now the thing, that doesn't seem like all that cool, but it's the rhythm that makes it interesting, right? So you have to take this enclosure idea and mix it with rhythm for it to like really, really work. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? You hear that ba ba da 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 da. Right? It's not da 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 like some weird on the beat type of rhythm. I'm mixing the rhythms up, but I'm using this concept of enclosure to help create sort of like melodic variety. And then we do a little climb up where we play open A, pull off C to A, and then 4, 5 on the A string. And then we play the F sharp on the D string, the D sharp, which is a leading tone into the E, and then the chord, the E7 sharp 9. Now those last 3 notes, if I took away the chord and I just played the bass note, I would get this. Now what you may not realize is that is actually enclosure, despite the fact that I'm playing on 2 different strings. What I am playing is I'm playing F sharp, which is above the note E, and then I'm playing D sharp, which is below the note E, and then I'm playing E. I'm putting a chord on the E, but I'm still playing the note E. Like that. Now, like I said, if that chord wasn't there, I would be left with... So the end of this lick uses enclosure as well. Alright, so that's lick number 1. Okay, so lick number 2, we're playing over an A7 or an A9 chord. You can also think of it in terms of like an A9 up here maybe, or even an A9 down here. Right? Whichever A9 you want to think of, you can think of it as A9 basically. And this is the lick. So this is a jazzier style lick, and basically what I'm doing, I'm just kind of sliding into the E to begin with, sliding into the 5 of the chord, and then I run through, I kind of like climb up a couple notes, right? So I'm basically just climbing up the A major pentatonic, right? I'm just going 5, 6, 1, and then I do a series of enclosure ideas. Alright, so now what I'm doing, once I get to the G string, I play the B, and then I pull off the D to the B, 4 to 2, and then I play the C natural. Now, C natural is not in the chord, but I'm using that C natural to slide into the C sharp. Like that. So if I got rid of the C natural, it would basically just be, right, which is enclosure. D, B, C sharp. I'm just using the C to kind of slide into the C sharp. Right? And then once again, I'm doing the exact same idea on the next string. G, pull off to E, slide into F sharp. So that's 7, 5, 6. So on the G string, I'm doing 4, 2, 3. Remember the outside notes, 4, 2, and then the inside note, 3. And then the next string, 7, 5, 6. But I'm just kind of sliding into those notes, into those middle notes. Like that. And then at the end I do another enclosure idea. So I play A, and then here comes the enclosure idea. C natural, pull off to A, and then I play B, which is part of my A9 chord. I finish my lick on the 9. Like that. So I have like 3 main enclosure ideas. Right there, and then right there. So that's another lick. Okay, so the next lick is kind of like a Gypsy style lick. We're playing this over a G minor 6 chord, which if you play the G with your middle finger, then you skip the A string, you're playing the E on the 2nd fret with your index, and then you're barring the top 3 strings with your ring finger. It's a real common Gypsy chord. You get this kind of like, right? You get that kind of a sound. And this is the lick. So it's real fast. I'll kind of break it down a little slower. Now this lick uses the G harmonic minor scale, and so we're basically starting on the 2 and doing a pull off, and climbing down, and then we play the 7, which is the F sharp, and then the 6, which is the E flat, and then we have to jump to our index finger on the 5, which is the D on the 7th fret. And then slide up to the E flat again. Now so far we haven't really played any enclosure, but we're about to. That series right there, after that slide up to the E flat, we play the A on the B, so this is all on the B string, A, F sharp, G, and we move from the F sharp to the G with our index finger, and then B flat to A. Now the interesting thing about this idea is that it's a series of enclosure moves, but they're all overlapping each other. So the first one, A, F sharp, G, that's 2, 7, 1 of our scale, and then the 1 becomes part of the next enclosure idea, 1, 3, 2, right? And then the next part after this, after that, goes F sharp back to G. So then there's 3 enclosure licks. This one, and this one. So the first and the third are essentially the same, right? But each one, the last note of each figure is the first note of the next enclosure move. So that's 3 enclosure ideas right there. Right? now you have your root note, and you just have 7, 1, 2, 3, right? And you could mix up those 4 simple notes in a ton of different ways, right? And you might have played licks like this without realizing you were playing Enclosure, right? But now that you're conscious of it, it's something for you to look for and something for you to try to emulate and put into your playing consciously so that you are aware when you're doing it and when you're not doing it. It allows you the freedom to make better musical choices if you know what you're doing rather than just sort of accidentally allowing it to happen. So once again from the top. And then, so after that whole figure, we go down to the D, and then go down to the B flat. So we're kind of like playing a G minor arpeggio. And then this B flat pulls off to the A, and then we finish with a final Enclosure idea. The A, which is part of the pull off, goes to the F sharp, so that's the A is the 2, the F sharp is the 7, and then we finish on the 1, 2, 7, 1. Outside, above, outside, below, inside, root note. There you go. Okay, so the final lick is happening over just basically an E7 chord, and it's kind of like an E blues idea, sort of. So I'll show you what's happening, and then I'll break it down. Okay, so it's this kind of like long cascading upward lick, and it starts with like a blues riff. Right, so we start with like an E power chord, and then an open E, and then a pull off from 5 to open from A to E, and then we play a G. Now right there is your first Enclosure idea. Right, you're playing the 5, I'm sorry, the 4, A is the 4. 4, open, 3, right? So 4, 1, 3. Now if you think about that series of numbers, right, 4 is higher than 3, 1 is below 3, 3 is in between the two. So that's high, low, center, right? High, low, middle, that's Enclosure. Right? And then right away we do another Enclosure idea. So here we're doing B, D, C sharp, that's 5, 7, 6. And then we climb up the pentatonic scale basically, E, G, and then beginning on this G we have our next Enclosure idea. G, B, A, that's 3, 5, 4, right? So, alright, so 5, 4, sorry, 3, 5, 4, and then after that, now here's something interesting. Last lick we talked about overlapping Enclosure where one note of one Enclosure idea becomes another note of the next Enclosure idea. The same thing happens here, except instead of one note overlapping, we have 2 notes overlapping. So if you're following the tab, you're seeing in measure 2, we have 5, 4, 2, right? That G, B, A, that's an Enclosure idea. But then the B, A, and the B flat or A sharp, which is part of this, that little blue note idea, that flat 5, that is another Enclosure idea because the B is the 5, the A is the 4, and the B flat is in between the two. It's the flat 5. So you have this idea, and then those 2 notes enclose that B flat. Right there. And then we do the same Enclosure idea we did before, kind of, where now we're playing G, E, and F sharp. Alright? And then the F sharp slides up to G, and we just kind of climb up a G major chord. Now these last couple of notes, they're an enclosure idea, but it's kind of like basically the last four notes. Right? We're playing G, E, B flat, A. Right? So that's 3, 1, flat 5, 4. Right? And essentially, I'm thinking when I'm playing this lick, I'm just thinking 3, flat 5, 4. And I'm getting there with like a little passing note of the root note. Right? So that root note is kind of just like a way of elongating this enclosure, right? I'm going like low, lower, high, middle. So 3, 1, flat 5, 4, right? You can think of enclosure being the E, B flat, A. But if you just look at these three notes, 3, 4, flat 5, they're 3 in a row, so it's real easy to visualize on the fretboard. Right? So I just delay that by adding an E in there. Alright, so the whole thing. Yeah. There you go. Right, so that's another lick. And basically, like, what I'd like you to do is like take whatever scale you're comfortable practicing and improvising in, whether it's a major scale, minor scale, harmonic minor scale, pentatonic scale, doesn't matter. And start trying to break things down in terms of high, middle, or high, low, and middle, or low, high, middle notes, right? Like if I'm thinking, once again, like my A7 scale, right? I'm thinking, right? If I'm improvising, right? There was a lot of enclosure ideas because I'm skipping notes. I'm not just playing notes in order. That's what I'm trying to get you away from, of just running notes in sequential order. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 1, you know, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 4, like this kind of thing where you're just playing in stepwise motion. That's how players get real frustrated with themselves, and you know, so that's what I'm trying to save you from, essentially, right? So this enclosure idea will help you do that. But like always, feel free to DM me or send me an email with any questions, or if you need some help being walked through this, no problem. Also, check out www.maxrichmusic.com. I've got loads of free newsletters, articles, technique, theory stuff, all kinds of free lessons and stuff up there available for everybody. And if you're feeling so inclined, hit that donate button on the website because it helps me create content for you and keeps it free so that you guys can keep enjoying and keep advancing your playing. So, thanks for watching.